Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another beautiful evening with us on Live with Lloyd. I am your host, astronumerologist Lloyd Strayhorn for this Monday. Well, I tell you, this month of May has gone by very fast. In fact, the same time next week, we'll be looking at June the 2nd. So, as they say, this month is practically a wrap. But anyway, I have my very special guest that you see who will be coming on after I do the sponsors and the forecast. And her name is Nickki Monty. She is a sound alchemist. You'd be surprised what we do with sounds and how sometimes we kind of take it for granted. Anyway, let's see something here. Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you. By the way, the show is brought to you by You Juice. I understand that in not so distant future, Chenna will be visiting the United States. So hopefully we can get him on to talk about his juices, his upcoming book, and a couple other things he's doing. But if you want to order his juices, and they are absolutely delicious, especially as the months get hotter. You're going to want these juices, and let's go to Livet Store, LIVETSTORE.com. That's Livet Store, LIVETSTORE, to order your products. My favorite is the one that's on the left. Okay. Also, Nicholas Brooklyn celebrating over 50 years in business, and they're located at 1396 Fulton Street in Brooklyn. All righty. So this is the place to go if you want to have anything about esoteric crystals, incense, teas, soaps, fragrances, oils. I mean, it's too wide to name, but I tell you this: when you go, just tell them Lloyd sent them. Also, Manifest on Purpose with Miss Kimberly, who has Weekly Wisdom, who does the astronumerology reveal, and in fact, she has also extended a courtesy for those who wish to inquire about setting up a business, but using an astrological and numerical perspective. The consultation is complimentary. All you got to do is just go to kimberly.com to sign on and figure out where you stand in a way metaphysically. Also, Numerologics with Queen Bee. She has a show called Numbers Matter. The last 2 weeks, she did Malcolm X 1 and 2. That was last Monday and Wednesday with an excellent presentation. So before I bring on my guest, let me let you know that this is Monday, May 26, 2025. I think this is flawless today. The sun is in Gemini. It's a new moon day, too, in the sign of Gemini, which simply means when the sun and the moon are in the same sign at the same time. It's a 5 universal month, a 9 universal week, a 4 universal day. So for those under the signs of Aquarius, Leo, and Gemini, or if you're born on the 1st, the 4th, the 10th, the 13th, the 19th, the 28th, and the 31st of the month. And before I do bring my guest on, I want to let you know that this is what is called a Pilladrome week. In other words, if you do 5, 26, 25, the way they shortcut it when you're writing a check or filling out a date and you say it backwards, this would be the same. This goes up until the 29th. And then the next one won't be until June the 20th of 2026. And then in 2027, it will be July the 20th of 2027. In August, it will be August the 20th of 2028. And then finally, for the end of this 21st century, it would be September the 20th, 2029. All right, got that straight. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on my very special guest, Nickki Monty, who is a sonic alchemist. Nickki, how you doing? Hold, let me see. I have the...
Oh.
Okay, good. Now.
How are you doing, Lloyd?
Fine. You know, it's interesting. When people see sound alchemist, people just think it means anything, but people really don't realize that when the Academy Awards, they actually give out Academy Awards for sound effects.
Yeah, they sure do.
You know what I'm saying? So I think we just take it just because I can hear that, that is. how would you describe yourself as a sonic alchemist, and why would a person need to know how to listen? I guess that's why we got two eyes and two ears and a mouth.
Yeah. So the process of listening and coming into resonance with sound, especially ones that are supportive, is very important, because they affect everything that we do on a daily basis, whether we hear it or not. So I always encourage people, as far as what I do, it's a wonderful thing, but what I'm gearing more towards, because the gongs are something that help me, you know, clear out things and understand things about myself a little bit better,
Mhm.
and get me to walk this path on earth a little bit easier. Because, it seems like we're always fighting everything, but I observe nature and I see that everything is doing its job, but we're the ones that seem to have the problems all the time. So it made me think and wonder. That's how I got into sound. Sound is alchemical. Frequencies tap into different parts of you physically, mentally, emotionally, psychologically, and they help you do different things, and they help you solve problems with the right person, that does something with the right intention. You can solve a lot of things that are happening in your life that may not be there very beneficial, even things that we cause on ourselves, that we create ourselves. And this is why sound is so important and why I call it sonic alchemy, because it does help alchemize aspects of the self, turn the lead into gold, and our experience becomes a lot easier here. If that makes sense.
Well, it kind of, because I'm thinking as that people would just take sounds for granted just because they can hear something, but sound is very important. If you talk in the music industry,
Mhm.
if you talk about, there's the serve these frequencies, 144, 140, whatever the case is.
Mhm.
Is there any really, is it anything to those different frequencies?
There
Per se?
is. There is. What's really great is that there's a lot of scientists from the 70s, 80s, and 90s that have done some very interesting cymatic work. Cymatics is the visualization of sound, and they use it with water, color, light, and subtle energy, and things like that. And it demonstrates what these specific frequencies patterns look like and how it affects our cells in the body. So when something is more in a resonance with our physical being, it seems to be more round, more subtle, more doesn't have a lot of sharp edges and things like that. And then when you get into other things, some people say 440 versus 432. That's the big, thing, but they skip 417. They skip the other scales, and how most music predating the chromatic scale, it wasn't very even. There were all these flows and ebbs into the different intricacies in between what we listen to today. And the things that we don't hear can affect us more than the things that we do hear. So it all makes it can all be beneficial based on where you are, but for long periods of time, there's certain frequencies that we shouldn't be listening to. And most things after World War II were changed and then based on 440 hertz, which is kind of why, I mean, I look at it as society's kind of gone into a different state of existence, more self-centered and more propaganda and awareness with sound, with what we visualize. Everything we consume is based on these frequencies.
Is there a sound for healing? Is there a sound for love? Is there a sound for harmony? Does that make sense?
Yes. So, I mean, I could say
Or
yes and no.
frequency,
So,
if you want to call it.
yeah,
Is
yeah.
if
So,
I say sound and whatnot, it can sound and frequency be kind of interchangeable?
yes,
Okay.
yes. So, okay, this is a great example that just came to my mind. When we as mothers have children, or we as parents have children, and the baby comes out for the first time, the baby cries. That is when you do that act, that is the most beautiful sound that I've ever heard. And then, is that healing? These are the questions that people need to ask themselves. When you're talking to somebody that you love, their voice, you love their voice. It soothes you and things of that nature. So there are frequencies that help the organs, There's frequencies that help the heart specifically. There's colors that resonate, that come out as a frequency. So a color has a frequency. So you can, if you're doing something with your heart, some people say it's the color green, some people say it's the color blue, some people say it's purple. But it's the frequency, the spectrum of it that gives that that emission that changes the frequency that you are, that comes into more coherence with that frequency. So you can wear it, you can eat it, you can sing it, and it all does the same thing. So the frequency rests within color, sound, light, what you feel. It's like it's a vast thing, and you can receive it in many different ways. So, but we like to listen. This is one of our senses that really plays on all of us. So when we listen to something, we seem to respond to it a lot better because sound travels very fast and so does light. So you want to work with those two things first.
For example, behind you, you have a gong, which actually you have a family of gongs. You have about 4
Yeah.
or 5 gongs. You have healing bowls.
Yeah.
How did you get into sound in the first place?
Well, my mother, she was a singer. My grandmother and my aunts, they worked with, the likes of some of these popular gospel groups that used to travel back in the day, like the Clark sisters and stuff like that. So my family background is very musical, but if you grew up in the church, you're also musical. So when you grow up in the church, everybody's singing, whether you think you can sing or not. And this expression, this expression comes out all the time. So even when we're sitting in our cars and we're humming, that's singing. I produce music. I've DJ'd for over a decade. What else? I grew up playing the piano, dabbled in saxophone, dabbled in guitar. And now I have all these instruments and I experiment with them along with making electronic music. So it's like so many things, but it's always been sound. So even opportunities that come to me, sound seems to be the easiest. So now with a different state of awareness, I gravitate towards what is more beneficial, loving, kind, compassionate in my way of movement for what works for me. And sound has been that thing all the time. It's always opened the doors for me, and it's become something very different than what I thought it would be. But sound has just been a part of my life since day one.
In fact, when you look at movies, especially romance movies, it gives a sound that brings about a romantic feel or resonance. If there's a spooky movie or scary movie, which I don't like, it produces that kind of, I don't know what that frequency is, but they say, da na na na, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, so it's just amazing what we would take for granted. And it's so interesting because you're right. When you said that a lot of it come out of the church, I think of Aretha Franklin, Sam Cooke, our whole
Whitney Houston.
Whitney Houston, all of them, and her mother,
Yeah.
Cissy Houston.
Yeah.
All of them have come out of the church. This is Luther Vandross. I mean, we could just name them endlessly of how they all got their start in the church. Is that why choirs, you think, are so popular, guess?
Yeah, for sure. Music drives the experience. People are moved by the tones and the frequencies and all these different things. And when people sing together, they come into resonance. And that's why historically, and when as I was growing up in the South with my grandfather, people would catch the Holy Spirit. And it's when everybody's singing and they're playing those drums fast, higher frequencies fast. Once you start getting into the fast stuff and people start stomping their feet and going
I mean,
through all
some
that.
really get caught up
Yeah.
into it. It's almost as if the music captures them.
Yes,
It
it
takes
does.
control of them. And, people just think they're just all being performance and whatnot. But there are things where music has really gotten a hold of people and got into their spirit, for lack of a better way of putting it.
Yeah, and depending on what's going on and how it captures you can make or break, some experiences that you have. It can be traumatic and it can be uplifting. So, and frequencies, it's a program. So it gets into your cells. It gets into the water in your body. it starts to change things. And that's why I always tell people, be very much aware, especially if you're going through healing processes, what you're listening to, what you're concentrating on, what you're aware of, what's in your field, your dynamic. How do you want your life to be? Expose yourself to that. Expose yourself to things that are going to help you get into the state that you want to be in so that you can emulate and walk in that and open yourself up to the benefits that that the universe has for you so you can walk in your purpose, because everything wants you to do what it wants you to do, because I look at frequencies as archetypes. So this gong is an archetype. It represents solar energy. It can dispel negative energy. It can call upon things. It can do a lot of different things depending on the intention and what you're trying to do. So anytime that something is trying to take control of my vessel, I look at it and, I try to stay away from that. You want to be in control of this. So I don't advise people to get, allow something to take them over unless they actually know how to be in control of that and to move with it and not allow it to put you in a state where you're unaware or it's driving you from a psychic perspective. So all of this is, you monitor it, you watch the person, you watch what's going on with these frequencies, and then you can really see, oh, it's doing this. Yeah, I don't want that, or yes, I want that. So we all have a choice, once we become aware of what things are actually doing when it comes to sound. Light does it too. When you're in a club and the lights are flickering and the music is playing, this is all, you're drinking drinks, you're socializing, you're feeling a certain way, people are moving, the beat has them grounded into this frequency, and then there's drinks, and then there's lights and all this stuff. So, it's all about what you want to experience. So,
This country has experienced things from blues to jazz to rock and roll to hip hop to the romance periods of the 50s, 60s, 70s,
yeah.
and the 80s, and then then the hip hop, then the reggae. All of it represents a different experience that move people in a certain way. So I just think it's amazing how all these music forms, and even today now hip hop. Now, what I hear coming out of the radios in these cars, I don't understand what that's about. I'll be trying to figure. I mean, I could know what group was, like the Spinners or the Temptations or Smokey Robinson. Now, when I hear some of the music that's played in the streets today, I have no idea who the artists are. They all sound the same.
Yeah.
There's no distinction of this group or the Delphonics or the Spinners, or it seems to be none of that. Or am I missing something?
No. No. It's just public consciousness and how, I don't want to get into that really, because I don't want to say that on live. But I will say that that there is a direction that is dictated for consciousness. And music is something that captures people. Again, captures people, captures their consciousness. So when you see how people are moving and what's happening, it's not just, do we really want that type of thing in our ear? Do we want our children to be exposed to that? Do we want them to act that out? All these different things. But then people just accept it. It plays on the radio over and over and over again. It plays every hour on the hour, every 30 minutes. This is the new hot single by such and such. Everything is programming. It's all programming. And, I'm reestablishing my connection with the understanding of propaganda. So, and then they call it public relations.
That's interesting.
So when you look at it and you see what's happening with the consciousness of this country and how everybody's watching us and wanting to emulate the American culture, whether they say they are or not, because, everything historically, what others are doing musically and things of that nature, not by their culture, but by their standards of entertainment. A lot of that, we've shared a lot on the globe, but a lot of people look here to do, express our blues players, our guitar players, our singers, our songwriters, our industry when it comes to music. So when you see where it's going now, it's not the public that's really asking for that. It's just what's given. Because there's so much good music out there that we're not exposed to, that's on sites like Bandcamp, and all these underground sites, sharing through other people, just searching through Spotify. You can find good music, but what's in our face is, you know, diminishing our capacity to think, to be in harmony with one another, to love one another truly. And a lot of people are moving, in separate directions. They want to go this way, they want to go that way. And, ultimately when people are starting to really feel pain and you seeing it expressed through these children, you know that this is missing. There's a lot of love and kindness that's missing, that's not being expressed. So because I'm still involved with the music industry, because my partner, we're starting to see a resurgence of R&B, but it's not like what we used to listen to. But there's a calling for something different, an expression of love and a yearning for that society is just absent. It's just very absent. So there's this battle in music. So I'm observing it and I'm watching it and I'm just saying, wow. But the one thing is that it's coming from the voice. So there's an expression of this, whether it's being paid for, whether people are fighting for it, within the public consciousness, this is something that's being dulled. We're not allowed to express ourselves. And when we get the opportunity to do it, this is what it becomes, because it's being suppressed all this time. And people are like, well, I just want to do this. They capture these young people, and then this is what goes into the next generation. And if this is where we're going, then a lot of things that, like our history, our love for one another, the village mentality, all these things, it's slowly disappearing. So this is why, I wanted to talk a little bit about today, the importance of the voice and balancing the body. Because if you can't get in front of this and you have no body, you could sing yourself back to coherence without having to look outside of yourself or try to figure out if this person's binaural beats are good for me. You can always trust yourself to do the work. Instead of listening to other people all the time and their music, you can create your own. Your whole frequency, your whole existence has a tune, and you can sing to it to better your organs, to better your energy, to bring you into a state of peace. So, while we're listening to everybody and how much pain they're in, you don't have to be a part of that reality. So,
I think it's interesting because I think it was in either the late 80s, 90s, when they start building the prisons, the private prison systems, that all of a sudden the music changed. And then all of a sudden it was a hip hop, but it was a different type of hip hop from the 70s and 80s in the Bronx and whatnot, of where now it's about kill each other. How women are called all kinds of names, you know what I'm saying, except the word woman, and even they got the women singing like that in this modern way. So I'm not impressed with this kind of music, because does that help fill up the prison systems? Because that's what they are. Most of these prison systems now are private institutions, and it seems like the music was, when these private systems came into existence, so did the change in the music, and especially Black music, the way we would express music towards each other. And so now if you listen to it, it's with words of disrespect, a lot of vulgarity, profanity. This is not the kind of music our grandparents and parents grew up into, where they would dance under a red light, you know what I'm saying, on the weekends and whatnot.
Yeah.
Dance close, work up a sweat. None of that's there.
Yeah. So it's very interesting that you talked about the prison system, because most of it is privatized, and this is stuff I like to talk about behind the scenes. But there's all of that.
You ain't got to go into
I'm not going to go that far, but we all know, it's like there's so much freedom. A lot of people are pushing on the background for freedom of information in regards to this subject, as well as, many different things like information about this country, the history of this country, how old this country is, who's truly original to this country. All these different conversations are happening because consciousness is shifting so fast. And again, it keeps coming from here. We have a lot of questions, all these decades of when you say people dancing and building up a sweat and all this stuff, again, these are the things that we did for the weekend so that we could function Monday through Friday, you know? So it's everything that we're looking at. If you look at this world as this is all a program for me to be like this and function in this society in order to create and fulfill the needs of those that are governing us. That's the problem. We don't see it like that. So we go to clubs, we have drinks, we have smoke, we have drugs, we have sex, we have all these different things to keep us in the low frequency, which is not a bad thing, but it's just the dominion of it that causes these issues with, especially with child trafficking, which seems to be, and trafficking in general, which seems to be blowing up right now. So, and the awareness of that. So the important thing is to just realize what state we're in. And if you look at this country, it seems to be in the red. And that's not a place you want to sit in. And
Seriously,
that is the
really.
base, and that is like on the spectrum, it's not red, but that would be base frequency. So that
Yeah.
is in between our legs, below the sacral, all these different places. Our feet up, we're black. You go into the maroon, the dark red, the blood red, all this different stuff. And this is where a lot of people are sitting. That's why there's a lot of sexual issues, a lot of problems with sexual organs, things of that nature. And, a lot of women are having these endometriosis, uterine cancers, cervical cancers, and brothers are getting a lot of prostate issues and lumps and things like that in their testicles, because things are, you suppress and then it shows up like this. And then grief as well. A lot of people with heart issues and lung issues. And it's not smoking that's necessarily the issue. I mean, you could smoke the wrong stuff, but, even the way they smoke and why they smoke, there's so much grief here. And it's just, we're not understanding that we're just trying to function and live and survive so that we can take care of our families or ourselves and make some money so that we can live. We eat to live, we live to eat. We're working, we're doing all these things, and we're not living our purpose. Our true self is suppressed. And that's why, again, these frequencies have dominion over us, and we're not aware that we're not really in control. And that causes us to fight. And how we fight is, we're fighting through suppression. And that's why we have, the systems here that were created. If you suppress people and they don't know how to express themselves, they become violent. And then they become violent, and then we have a prison cell for you.
Yeah, yeah.
And
That's
it's all,
almost is exactly the way
yeah,
it seems. As more private institutions, penal institutions were uh, raised or built, so did the music swiftly change.
yeah,
And in fact, they had a music executive one time on the popular radio station here in New York, the Breakfast Club, and he made it says, "Well, we got to feed our family." Well, maybe the record executives got to feed their families in the prison system,
hmm,
but what about the countless young brothers and sisters being affected, thinking it is cool now to talk to a sister in any kind of way, call her all out of her name, to curse each other, to be at their throats? In fact, E Fortuna just says lyrics are used to influence society shaped by those in control. Pretty much what you were saying.
yeah,
Significant amount of anger is being filtered not only through music, but also through the movies as well. And in fact, that's how we
absolutely.
open it up by saying that they give Academy Awards for sound.
Hmm. Yeah, because you can feel it in your body. It leaves a memory. And these are the memories that are located within our bodies and within our field. So you know how when you come across somebody and they're walking past you, you feel the air, right? But you may feel something else and it makes you shiver, or you like it, or they come with a beautiful smell and it makes you smile, but then there's something else behind that that doesn't feel right. It feels dirty, like you need to shower. I get that a lot.
Well,
Because I
yeah,
feel
you and the
things.
sound,
Yeah,
definitely.
so I'm feeling things, and then I have to, over time, because these things can affect you, then you learn how to take care of yourself. Energetic cleanliness. So you go through the world and imagine that you're not aware of that. And then we wonder where these nightmares come from, where these issues suddenly pop up within our households, why we feel a certain type of way, or we don't have the same spirit as we used to, and we're kind of down for a few days. All of that is biochemical and electrical impulses that are coming from all of us. And someone said we're all connected. It is very, very true. And the more of us that are happy, in coherence, harmonize with the planet, harmonizing with each other, not allowing our thoughts, our negative thoughts to dominate us, but to, observe nature and see how it's responding to each other. And that's how we're supposed to be. We don't have to beg or ask or proceed with violence. We all have a job and a purpose here. And whether we feel it's good or not, that's morals. That has to deal with society and the governing of society. But your true essence and your true self should be honored at all times. And we're going around here treating each other like crap because we're just trying to survive in a society that's constantly bombarding us with desires, which desires can be a killer. It can make people do things that they didn't expect to do. And, when you look at the chakras or the energy centers in our bodies, you can look at your fist and you can put it, in these sections of your body. I just want to educate. Can I educate a little bit?
Please do. Please do.
Okay,
That's why
because
you're here.
okay, so imagine your heart, right? And it in front of your heart, there's a circle, and this circle has a color, and this circle is, and you can imagine like it's a circle and it's dancing, like how when you see a pot of water and it starts to boil, but it's not the water in the pot, it's the stuff that's jumping out, all these little particles. So imagine that your heart is doing this all the time. It's seeking information, it's looking to share, it's receiving, and there's always a conversation that's happening. Just imagine that it's closed and that nothing is coming in there. And then you can feel that pain in there because you're not able to speak or express or honor something or do something. And then this is closed, so there's a clog in your energetic system. And then people that are seeking higher states of consciousness, they can't get there because the pipes are clogged. So you have to open it up like a flower and allow it to communicate intelligently and receive and share that. This is the most important space. I don't care what anybody says. This is the most important space. You have your solar plexus, which is your emotions and intellect, and that inner fire within ourselves. You have to turn all of these spaces on in order to have a healthy body. So you can work from the outside going in, or you can go from the inside going out. They all have a color, they have a tone, and you can work with them all the time. And the more you do that, the more open it becomes. Say, for example, somebody with digestive issues, yellow, wear yellow. Intone the note E in the fourth octave. Sit there and imagine a yellow color just flushing over your body and cleaning out your intestines. Children are fascinating because they use their imagination, and when you take them through these exercises, they can envision these things, and they're so happy and joyous. And it's like, well, where did that go for us?
Oh, well, we become adults and we think we know everything. Okay.
Yeah.
But
And
with
then we
children's
suffer. It
it is unlimited. It is
Yeah.
unlimited.
So, when I go through these exercises with people, it's like, be like a child, open it up. Imagine you wiping the screen and you get to peer into your essence. And all of these places, these centers are connected energetically to our nervous system by way of our spine and the electrical impulses. And it affects our organs. And it affects there's like a conversation, the organ to the ganglia plexus to the spine, nervous system, electrical impulses. And if you're happy, you don't have as much pain in your body. You're breathing easier. There's so much joy in feeling whole and happy in your body. And everybody's, even for a moment, it's better than never. And you can take that moment and you can reflect that out to the world. And this is the electricity. These are the signals that we want to send out. And if we continue to do that, then that's what changes consciousness quickly. But if there's a dominion of this intellectual darkness, where people think that they're doing the right thing or they're doing it to take care of a select few, but many suffer, that changes everything. Being at the brink of war, music can instill this anger and frustration in somebody that makes them, makes the whole country move to that. And then, our leaders, our government can say, oh, well, public opinion, we're ready to do this, but why? What happened? Do we really want to hurt other people? There's people all over this planet that have families. We're observing what's happening in all of these different countries, and something is moving consciousness and people's opinions to believe that this is the right thing to do. What happened here? So that's a really important place to look at, because it affects your breath. If you're calm, if you're centered, if you're happy, if you're aware, your breath changes completely. And you can do that just by singing the right notes and wearing the right colors and eating the right foods. It's like, it seems difficult, but it's not.
You know what it is? Music, by way of sound, because that all this sound is applied to music, can also evoke memories of a pleasant experience, of a dramatic experience, or a traumatic experience. But music thinks of everything. And in fact, looking at the comments, I'm going to start with Steven out of Chicago. He says it's like when a certain song comes out, you'll say that music is trash. Who made this garbage? After listening to it for a while through programming, which you alluded to earlier, you soon find yourself bobbing your head. And Lacey says, so true, the body keeps a score. And Johnny Johnson says, a hungry man is an angry man, woman, child. And for Rhonda, she says, wow, what Nickki says has said, you suppress yourself, your true self, that really hits me.
Yes.
And a random says, absolutely invaluable knowledge and gems are being shared in such an authentic way. Infinite gratitude to the right message, knowledge, and gems. And Johnny Johnson says, in the Black families, killing of parents was unheard of, but now in today's society, there are things that Black people are doing that was not even a given or a thought. I don't know whether it is the music or whatever the case is. And Lucia says, speak more to this, Nickki. Yes, joy and pleasure, it releases oxytocin. Imagine creating that kind of peace within.
Yeah. So there's a comment here that Johnny Johnson said that's above Lucia's. He says ATP. Yes, can you read that?
ATP, adenosine triphosphate, aka mitochondrial DNA, melanin is nothing but pure carbon. We Black people have higher amounts of melanin.
Yes. So
in fact, melanin is now on the stock exchange.
Yes, but I want to say something to that. We have, and this may challenge a few people, but I just want people to look within to this aspect of awareness. When I go into sessions, and this has been somewhat of a interesting, wonderful experience for me. Where I live now, I'm surrounded by people that don't look like me. And they come to my sessions. And what I practice now, I can't look at color anymore. I can't, because the spirit and the soul don't have a color, and it doesn't dictate the travel leaving this physical reality. Once we drop the body, our energy field doesn't come with a color. It doesn't come with anything like that. What it comes with is what we did here and how we were as human beings. That's the record that it keeps. Now, with us being in these bodies and having these experiences, it is completely different. And that's where compassion comes in. So I always encourage people to have compassion for each other first, take care of your family, but also know that no matter what we look like, we're all still human beings having a human experience. And there has been plenty that has happened on this planet to everybody. We all hold an Akashic record of pain and death and disease. So melanin is here for the third dimension, and it is matter, and it exists in all space, place, and time. But once you get outside of space, place, and time, and you start to get into higher aspects of dimensional existence, that's not a factor because you're light. So light has the whole spectrum. So if we look at everybody as part of the whole spectrum and how they move and what they do, yes, consciousness is different because our experience is different, and there's specific chemical factors and biofactors that do create the experience, along with ancestral, spiritually ancestral, and all these different things. But if we're to come into resonance in reality and walk in this higher nature, our eyes have to look at the soul of the person, the heart of the person. And the subject of melanin has gone into a place where we're discounting experts, and we're looking to people that look like us when there's people that don't look like us that want us to succeed and have information for us to utilize to help us heal. Some of my greatest teachers have been of the opposite sex, race, religion, and culture.
Mm-hmm.
So I respect melanin. I respect non-melanin. I think we all here have melanin. And some people walk with an absence of melanin. But I encourage everybody to look at the soul.
I like how you put that.
Yeah.
King Simon says, why does aura present colors? If you know the answer. And I've got a couple of more people that make statements too. But that's what you want to know. Why does auras present colors?
Well, auras, okay, so if you're looking at somebody and here's an exercise. If you look at your hand and you look past your hand and not focus on your hand, if you continue to do that for about 5 minutes every day, you can see what color you have. And you can compare that to, let's just say, a chakra poster or picture. Red has one frequency, orange has another frequency. And if you look at people and you see that they may have blue, that represents compassion, indigo violet, high in tune psychic awareness. Some people have white and gold. That's extra dimensional existence and, high potential for healing and, ultra dimensional realities of existence existing here and there. Green is, earthbound healings, dealing with the liver. They're not an angry person. That's why a lot of healers choose to wear green, turquoise, blues, things of that nature. But then you get into yellow, which is intellectual. That's also going into gold, but you need your intellect in order to surpass that to get into the, more inspirational, godlike, things of that nature. Orange is creativity and sexuality. And then red, you're getting into, other aspects like the lower nature, but it doesn't mean that it's bad. It's just where somebody is. And throughout the day, the sun has a clock too. So the reason why when you live in a country and they rise when the birds start chirping and the sun starts to come up, that's ultraviolet. That's when the flowers open up, because you get the whole spectrum first thing in the morning. And that's why people who work on the land or get up first thing in the morning and they're taking in this light, they have a better day than most people, that sleep in and do all that. So everything represents something. And if you start your day from the top and then you let it all fall on you, as the sun does, it gives that to us like that. We start in the ultraviolet, violet, indigo, you go into blue, green, and then around noon, high noon, not at 12 o'clock, but when the sun is,
Directly overhead.
right directly above and is casting no shadow, a little bit before, a little bit after that, you get into yellow. So this is the best time to think and to process information, to have discussions, that lunchtime wine o'clock and all that stuff with your friends. you have really good cathartic conversations between 12 and 2. And then you get into the lower aspects after that. You get into your low infrared, and then you go into the high infrared with that yellow, which is, you get more physical aspects for your body to help your body heal. But if you're sick, you want that morning ultraviolet. It's more gentle on your body. If you feel tired and you want to empower your cells, you go in the evening, you take an evening walk, let that infrared come onto you. You can do color therapy, frequency therapy all day long if you just step outside at
Understand the
certain times
principle
of
of
the
sun.
day.
And in fact, they
Yes,
always tell you to go outside. And they're saying
yes.
one of the things now about children is they don't go outside anymore.
Yeah, and
They're
they're
normally
always on their
indoors.
device,
Yep.
blue light LED flickering, hypnotizing them all day long. And then we wonder what's wrong with our children. Why is their health declining? I mean, there's a whole bunch of different reasons. Don't get me started on the food, but there's all kinds of different things that we can do to support ourselves. And these devices have taken us away from our natural concept of humanity by connecting with each other. And if we're not doing that, if we're not getting electrical information from each other, then we're dying. We're
You know, what's
dying.
and what's interesting, Star Jones says, so what about our ancestors? Because you mentioned that less than about
Yes.
10 minutes ago.
Which ancestors?
I
Because you
guess
have
you're talking about was
you
related.
have manyfold ancestors. We have our physical ancestors, we have our spiritual ancestors, we have our soul ancestors. We have, dark ancestors, light ancestors. We have all kinds. It again, if I can you okay, generational trauma, slavery passed down through the bloodline, the color of our people, no significance. Okay, so when I'm talking about ancestors, I honor mine by living, right? I used to be into a lot of ritual. I used to get into offerings and things of that nature. Naturally, my family is very, on my father's side, they come from the Caribbean. So they're from Puerto Rico. So if you already know Taino, Arawak, bloodline, things like that, then you get into my mother, and they come from Alabama or Alabamu by way of, Mexico and, the South and things like that. So they have Olmec looking faces, especially my grandfather. And then he has these chinky eyes like a Chinese guy. So, and then you realize what's happened in the West and how some of them have come over to the East. You have the Mississippi that separates the country, and the culture is completely different when it comes to the origine people. So the thing about that is a lot of church, a lot of altars, a lot of ancestors, a lot of wearing white, a lot of rituals around Catholicism, ancestral veneration, understanding the spirits, talking to the trees, all this stuff. Trees are our ancestors. Dolphins are our ancestors. My grandmother's my ancestor. All of it is here. So the best way to honor our ancestors is by living the way that is for us to live, by tapping into what works for us. Certain foods complement our stomachs and our digestive system based on our blood type, some may say. And sometimes it's based on where you're living. In the Caribbean, I can eat something completely different. I can delve into cassava a little bit if I want to, but eating it here, I can't. I can eat plátano down there. Here, I would rather not because it came off the boat or the plane and it's not fresh, and it didn't fall off the tree. It doesn't have that element there anymore. It's been sitting for a while. It's been sprayed. So honor your ancestors by walking your path, understanding your purpose. Honor them because they're in here. They don't go away when they die. They're here. They're all in here. So how I honor my ancestors or how I take care of that
Well,
part.
actually, she added clarity. She says, I'm
Hmm.
asking about generational trauma such as slavery,
Yes.
which you mentioned just a moment
Yes.
ago, passed down
Is
through
the
the
color of our
bloodline.
people of no significance? It depends on how you want to think about it, because again, we honor our ancestors, right? And I have ancestors that come from Spain. So I'm not going to discount, Anybody that is in my bloodline, and that is a touchy subject. That's a whole conversation for discussion, that can go on for hours and hours. Everybody is of significance. Everybody should be honored, no matter what their color. That's what I'm saying. Everybody's walk, who you are, honor that completely. But within the society that we live in, it's always black, black, black this, white, white, white this, Black Panther, white KKK, all this stuff, the separatism, these polarities, and everything that we are. I mean, we're older than we think. So just because we can go back a couple of centuries does not mean that we don't have that there or that there. So if you're going to honor ancestors, honor all of them. Don't honor a select few, honor all of them, because they all are within us. If we are carbon melanated beings and everybody has carbon in their body, in order to exist here, you have to have carbon in your body. If we're all here, we're all interconnected. So honor everything that is a part of you. It's just looking at things as if it's better or it's not better, or my experience is better, or it was more painful, or it's different. At this point in the game in 2025, it's up. The contract has been written. We all know that it's all messed up and it's a lie. So how do you repair that and walk proudly in whatever you are? Honor your ancestors by being proud, and honor them by taking care of yourself and observing intelligently where we are, and walking in your highest truth, which has not been given by race, religion, creed, or color. It's what your soul is speaking. And if it's more dominated about what's happening in this third dimensional reality based on color, religion, and all that, that's fine, but that's here. When we die, we don't take that with us. That's what I'm saying. Does that make sense?
It makes sense to me too. Yes.
Yeah,
The
because
only thing is we just don't have a machine or measurement to kind of see that transition, but something happens. There is some, because my attitude is the fact that everybody's got to leave this planet means something must be happening on the other side. Where do they go? Where does the soul go? I mean, there's so many philosophical and theological questions upon the transitions of each and every one of us, because no one leaves this planet alive as much as we want to stay.
right.
It's a
And
process.
whatever anybody wants to believe, I honor that, Astarte. And anybody else that thinks something different. Exactly. And King Simon said race theory, you are loved, and whoever you are, and whoever anybody is on here that thinks different, I still honor whatever you think, because what I understand is based on what I practice. And, once you get into mysticism, Gnosticism, when you study the Rig Veda, when you go into these esoteric teachings and all these different things, that is not a factor, and it's not a subject. That's our personal thing. So whatever is for you, your personal journey, and what you need to work out to heal the traumas that have happened, because we do walk with that. And I definitely have seen it pass from my great grandmother to my grandmother to myself to my children, and I am doing my part to work those things out, and by utilizing these tools and tapping into what my soul has called me to do, by expressing, love, kindness, compassion, and assisting others in removing, not even removing, because it's there, right? It's a part of our record, but we learn how to manage our walk better. It's not, oh, I'm going to control this and control that. No, I'm here to be a human being that's here to work things out so that we don't continue these traumas and these processes. That's why it's so important to recognize color, to recognize sound and frequency, and how we're expressing that part of ourselves. We can be angry, we can be frustrated with what's happening on the planet, but staying within a consciousness where, we have our things that we have to deal with as people, yes. And I've had to do my part as well. I've had to honor and go through a bunch of rituals to deal with some things. But once you get past that part, what's there? What do you have to deal with? Okay, I got my organs, all these genetic inherited factors such as color, how I smell, what my hair is, all this stuff. How do you purify yourself so that wherever you go, you're floating through and people recognize the light in you? And whatever color you are, whoever you are honored and you are loved and you're welcome because you're walking with what we call Christ consciousness. That's all I'm about. And people come to me because I have had my own traumas and I have lived it. And sometimes it is experience, but I look at it as, ignorance. I'm sorry you feel like that. I'm sorry that I'm not welcome in your presence, but I honor you. That's a part of you. And you become, as you rise in consciousness, a caretaker for humanity and for the spirits of people. So, once you start to walk like that, life becomes more beautiful. And then you recognize that all of it is a fallacy. It really doesn't exist. If we didn't have our senses, if we didn't have our eyes, we wouldn't know. If we didn't have our nose, we wouldn't smell. We wouldn't be able to see what purple smells like with our flowers, and how they bloom for us just because it's a gift. So being here is a gift. We get to purify and prepare ourselves for death, which is the ultimate initiation. I want to go clear. So anything that's a program here that diminishes my capacity to have compassion for other people, I don't want to take that with me. It's all about purification.
I want to thank you very much. You do have an instrumental. Can people hear your instrumental, or is that?
Yes. If you guys go on Bandcamp, it's nickimonty.bandcamp.com. You can, I actually put out a 19-track project last year, and it's called Future Past. And it's the largest collection of music that I have to date that came out in one single piece. They're all instrumentals except for one. And I started to create them in 2012, 2013. And I finally put it out last year. So it's like a segue of different expressions of experience that I've had by creating, living in different parts of the country, traveling to different countries, having children, going through all these different things. Monty, Monty. Sorry.
Okay, let me do this.
Yeah. So it's just an expression of, different circumstances and situations.
Thank you.
And you can ride to it. You can dance to it. You can, meditate to it. It was created in a studio where we were using cymatics to see how the beat was, expressing itself through the matrix. So you can see the cymatics, if it was jumping out sharp, if it wasn't rounded, all these different things. So you can listen to it for yourself and you can experience that part and allow these frequencies to assist you. It's still music, but it's something that can kind of inspire a movement within your body and to help you process some things. So,
well, Fortuna says, Monty is an advanced soul. Thank you for shining your beautiful gifts and insight. And I think this is nice. As for Ashanti Jones, they're 73 years old. They've been in the study of metaphysics for over 50 years. I'm curious to listen to other points of view. And also, let me see. Lucia says, you have always practiced what you preach since I met you. Thank you for holding multiple viewpoints. It is an essential part of healing our ancestral linings. And King Simon says, Dr. Blair says, there is no truth until you decide what truth is.
I love Dover Blair. I love him.
An Aquarius.
Yeah, he was very, very, very intelligent.
And Jazz Aphrodite, I'm trying to find out what she said, because yesterday she had talked about mentioning the birthday of jazz great Miles Davis. His birthday was yesterday. He was born on the 25th of May. And in fact, he's buried here in New York City at Woodlawn Cemetery, a genius in his own way. And so I really want to thank you very, very much. I kept you longer than expected, but this
it's great. Okay. It's exciting.
Great. And my brother from abroad says, wonderful guest, love energy. Thank you, Miss Monty and whatnot. And Jazz Aphrodite has given out the proper address to hear it.
Thank
And
you.
I'm going to say the music that you've been hearing for about 3 years, because July will make 3 years that
Oh,
Bible
wow.
Lord has been on. The young lady that you hear the music, the beginning and the end, you're looking at her right there. Nickki, I call her Master Nickki between she and I. That's
Yes.
Master
Oh,
Nickki.
someone said they're trying to find my IG. So the IG is at my spiritology, SPIRITOLOGY.
Hold on, let me see.
Here it is.
Did you do it right?
Yes.
My Spiritology.
Yes.
Okay, on the IG.
Yes.
Okay. And so it's NickiMontyBandcamp.com to hear it. And please support her. Please support her in her work at Venmo at Nickki Monty, MICK1KIMONTY. Nickki, thank you. Because I'd met Nickki when I was in Atlanta, and she was into music, and then she sent me some themes. So the theme you hear every beginning and at every end of the show, this is the sister that put it together. I shade to you, okay?
Thank you, Lord. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So, Nickki, have a blessed day. I'm going to mention our sponsors, and we'll talk again soon, okay?
Yes. Thank you, everybody, for your comments, and you know, much love and light to you all on your journey. And thank you, Lord,
Yeah.
for this, for sharing
Listen, thank you
all the
too. Thank you.
guests. I've learned a lot from watching you, and I appreciate you as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Take care, Nickki.
Mhm.
Everybody, I do want to thank you very, very much for joining. And Wednesday, I'm going to have a numerologist on so you can give your birthdays and whatnot. And she does something with word. You got a word, she knows how to. I can't tell Sharon what side she does it. All I know is she does what she does very well. But I do want to let you know that the show is being brought to you by UJuice with and you go to Livet Store, LIVETSTORE.com to order your juices. Also, I want to thank Nicholas Brooklyn for celebrating over 50 years of being in business. They were at 1396 Fulton Street in Brooklyn. They had an ice event last week. No, I did not get in. I get cold easily, but that's their energy. Also, this other sponsor is Miss Kimberly with Manifest on Purpose, who has a podcast each week, a weekly wisdom and astronumerology revealed. And by the way, she also is set up now a business for those who want to go into business using astrological and numerical perspective. If you want to, just go to Kimberly.com, KIMBALEY.com. And you can also get a complimentary consultation. And you can make a decision how you want to go. Also, numerologics with Queen Bee. And by the way, also, please, I don't think Jazz Aphrodite have too many more books, but if so, you got two ways to get it. You can see it available on Audible, or you can purchase it directly at jazzaphrodite.com. That's jazzaphrodite.com. A couple of weeks ago, someone had suggested that about being in a group. Well, on next Tuesday, the 3rd, I'm Emily selecting 10 people to come in. You just click on the barcode at the upper right, click in, go to the date of June the 3rd, log in and sign on. I'm only going to take 10 people because if I did 100 people, I wouldn't be able to answer everybody. So I'm figuring just 10 at the most. And so for those of you who want some questions answered where I'm not rushed, so to speak, or anything of that nature, this would be the best way to go. And also, what's left of May, just sign up for the newsletter. This time next week, the June will be out. And boy, time goes by very fast. And if you want to hear the audio portion of it, just go right there to hear it. Just go to Kimberly.com on YouTube and you can hear it. I think it's Kimberly _ KIMBALEY _ And by the way, as I was telling you, I just did a piece that's on YouTube now did an assessment of the astronumerology and the palmistry of Diddy. Okay. because he's a 4-8. He's a 4, and his opposition numbers are the 6 and the 8, and the 4 major women in his life, from Milsey Holcomb, the mother of his first child, who was the 6th of January. She was the 15th of January. Then it was J-Lo, who was the 24th of July. And then it was Kim Porter, who was the 15th, 1 + 5 is 6 of December, who died in November. No, she was born December the 15th, and she died November the 15th, just 30 days before her birthday in a critical cycle. And of course, everybody knows about Cassie, who was born on August the 26th of 8. So I just thought it was interesting that his major opposition numbers are the 6 and the 8, and 4 major women. And by the way, 2 is a stress number 2. So he was involved with what's her name? Youthful Miami, something Miami. And she was born on February the 11th. And then it was Mary J. Blige, who was born on the 11th. And then little Kim, who was born on the 11th. So it was interesting. And I analyzed this palm. So if you want to go to that, go to Kimberly, Kimbaley _, and you'll see it says the 4, 8. And then I did the whole assessment numerically and looking at his palms too. A very interesting hand. So anyway, I want to thank everybody very much. And again, I want to thank Master Nickki, as I refer to her, for bringing me this wonderful song that when I first heard it, I says that's the theme, and I've been using it ever since. And with that, I'll see you on Wednesday.